Since 1979, the SkanHolz company has been known for wooden do-it-yourself building kits in many different variations. Thank you for your interest in one of our block plank houses. The St. Moritz house, which we are planning to build, is part of our 45+ series. All houses of this type are made of 45mm thick block planks with windproof chalet connections in the corners, insulated doors and windows including exterior window sills. Also, the kit comes with an insulatable floor and roof. As a standard, we calculate a very high snow load, 1.25 kilonanos per meter squared, even when using roof tiles. Our builder will deliver the kit with a 44-ton truck and a truck-mounted forklift. Thus, please make sure when ordering the house that your driveway can accommodate such delivery. After the kit has been delivered, we would recommend that you unpack the package and compare its contents with the packing list. To prevent any damage to the wood, the pieces should be stored level, dry, and protected from the sun until construction begins. To ensure the stability of your new summer house in all kinds of weather, we recommend laying a large enough foundation. The assembly plan will explain in detail how to build such a foundation. It will protect your house from changes of the subsoil due to frost, wind forces, rising moisture, and of course it will assure that the weight of the house is evenly distributed underground. You should not forget to protect your house from dampness and destructive molds and insects by waterproofing and varnish. It is best to treat the individual parts of the kit prior to assembly with a waterproofing compound and thin layer varnish. This treatment will guarantee that all of the wooden parts, including those areas that are out of sight, are sufficiently protected. It's finally time. The foundation has set, the weather is good, and construction can begin. At this time, you should pre-sort the planks. The wall plans, which are included in the kit, show the positions and thus the installation location of the planks. Don't forget to protect the parts from dirt by placing the new wood onto some old wood or onto foil from the packaging material. To simplify the construction process for you, we have created assembly instructions that explain step by step how to assemble the individual components to make a house. These individual steps are supported by graphics, and every once in a while we will give you helpful tips as well. The instructions are based on drawings. All important information and tips can be found on the content pages, which you will find in several languages at the beginning of the instruction. You will start with construction by placing the main bearings exactly as per instructions. Next, these main bearings will be bolted together at the corners with angles. Be sure to check the alignment. To check the angle, it is best to compare the two diagonals. If the diagonals have the same length, the main bearing ring is at a right angle. At the inner joints, screw the main bearings together diagonally. To determine the exact distances, divide the overall distance in equal parts. Once you have aligned everything properly, affix the main bearings to the cement foundation. To do so, please purchase the required hardware at your home improvement store. You may now start raising the walls. For this purpose, you might find it helpful to pre-sort the block planks and position them at their installation locations. Start by installing the first row. Always start at an outside corner. Every time you tighten down an opposite half plank, temporarily attach together the connections to maintain the exact position of each subsequent wall. The planks can now be bolted together with the main bearing at the corners. Please don't forget to pre-drill the holes. This will prevent splintering of the planks. The screw enters the wood more easily, and in the end, visible screw connections will look better. On the back wall in the wall mounting area, the planks must be abutted lengthwise, while screws make for a tight connection. For the opening dimensions of door spaces, please refer to the assembly plan. You may now simply interlock one row with the next. Use the provided beading wood to pack the layers, or protect the planks by using a rubber sleeve for the hammer. Do not hammer directly on the springs to avoid bending or breaking. On the back wall, each layer must be bolted with the abutment joint in the center wall. And one more tip. If one of the planks is slightly twisted, you may install it by straightening the plank with a screw clamp and then inserting it into the halving. When embedded in the overall construction, this plank will keep its new straight form without any problem. The house is quickly gaining height. The construction is securely connected in the corners by means of the chalet connections, which are resistant to wind and to driving rain. In the front wall above the porch as well, the long wall planks connect in the center wall where they must be bolted together. At the front corner, a post supports the porch roof. Please purchase the anchor required for this post in your home improvement store. First, the post must be cut to its required length. After doing so, fasten it to the anchor and bolt down the porch planks. As a final step, make sure that the post is completely vertical and secure the anchor in the ground. Alternatively, you may also use a vertically adjustable post spike, which will make any later height adjustments of the post to the height of the building easier, which you should perform regularly in summer and winter. The space above the smaller rooms is intended for storage. For this purpose, connect the girders with the outside walls. Then install the planks on top of the girders and floorboards on top of the planks. This also creates the beamed ceiling for the two rooms below. The longitudinal girders, the so-called purlins, are crucial for the high snow load, which is why they are so massive. In order for them to not be too heavy and bulky for installation, they are divided by the center wall, which also offers additional support. Proceed to connect the purlins to the small support beams with the help of angles and also to the end walls. Secure the beams with long wood screws in the abutment joints. Directly below the purlins, at the end walls, additional supporting components known as purlin shoes must be attached. These purlin shoes ensure optimal load transmission into the substructure and also stabilize the gable during the building phase. The skeletal structure is now finished. It is time for a small roofing ceremony. Since simply interlocking the block planks does not protect the structure against air from below, they must be secured with a different kind of connection as well. For this purpose, one threaded bar each is installed vertically in each of the corners of the house. A spring is inserted in the bottom part, which helps compensate for changes in height due to differences in wood moisture. The threaded bar does not serve as a tension rod, however, but rather only supports the structure. Slightly stretch the spring and simply remove the projection at the top. During the first year, the threaded bars should be inspected every 3 to 4 months. Due to the fact that a blockhouse construction settles within the first year, while the threaded bars maintain their length, it is possible that the bars will settle onto the floor and push against the roof. Before this occurs, it is advisable to adjust the tension and shorten them again. After approximately 1 year, the structure should have settled and the wood should have matured enough that any future changes in height will be offset by the installed spring. The height of your house will continue to change from summer to winter. During humid seasons, the planks will swell slightly and the house will be higher. During dry seasons, this process will reverse itself. We are now ready for roofing. First, screw on one layer of roof boards. In our case, the roof of the house is an optional double shell construction. The clear spacing that is created can be used for insulation. This greatly extends the useful period for your summer house into the colder times of the year. For insulation purposes, be sure to completely cover the first layer of roof boards with an appropriate special foil to prevent moisture-loaded warm air from entering the wool from the interior of the house. Once cool, such air would release water into the wool and soak the wood. Ask your specialty retailer about correct insulation practices and the materials needed. Next, screw the counter battens onto the foil directly into the purlins which lie beneath or into the outer wall. Then, loosely jam the insulation wool in between the counter battens. After you have installed the second layer of roof boards, you may start laying the shingles. Start at the eaves with one shingle while lining up its smooth backside with the lower edge of the roof. This will create a straight edge at the eaves. Now, lay the first row of shingles normally, however laterally offset by a half corner to prevent water from running into the gap between the shingles underneath. Continue with this pattern, always offset by a half corner, one left, one right, and cover the entire area of the roof to the top, the roof ridge. Be sure to use sufficient height offset, otherwise, if you lay the shingles too close together, the quantity of shingles won't be sufficient to cover the entire roof. You can find information regarding height offset in the laying instructions from the shingle manufacturer. For finishing the roof ridge, you may lay shingle corners in a scaled pattern. However, you may also decide to use a ridge sheet instead. The quantity of shingles specified in the catalog always assumes the use of shingle corners for the roof ridge. Once finished, cut the protruding shingle corners and leftover foil flush at the gable. The gable faces and eave faces close the space between the two roof layers and also give the roof a substantial appearance. It has proved efficient to pre-assemble the gable faces with the upper cover strips before installing the gable faces. To provide additional sealing, install small quarter-round battens from underneath in the transition between the gable and the roof boards. Alternatively, we can deliver this house prepared for the installation of roof tiles. In that case, however, we would deliver a second layer of tiling battens to hinge the tiles. Once the walls have been raised and the roof has been covered with shingles or tile, you may now lay the flooring. The flooring as well is designed to allow for insulation in the spaces between the individual footing beams. This prevents cold air from rising. You may also decide to use foil to protect the insulation against moisture entering from above. Now it is time to install doors and windows. To make the doors and windows unusually windproof, they are equipped with what are known as guide rails. Since each plank, and thus the entire blockhouse, changes height depending on humidity, vertical components such as doors, windows, shelves, and vertical electric and water installations must not be directly attached to the wall planks. In case of dryness, this would cause cracks to appear in the walls because the solid upper block planks would be unable to slide down with the lower planks. This is also the reason why the guide rails are shorter and the door or window openings are respectively higher. Simply push the guide rails into the planks and bolt them only to the lower plank with one screw. To make window installation easier, remove the wings and pre-assemble the outer faces. Always start with the upper face and center it before bolting it down. Then align the window in its opening, pre-drill the holes, and screw the frame together with the guide rails. You may also fill the spaces above the exterior door and the windows with insulation wool. However, be sure to insert the wool very loosely so it will have enough room to compress with the planks sliding down. After this, you may install the inner faces, which also should only be bolted to the frame and the guide rails and not to the block planks. Install the window handles and hinge the window sills and fasten them with 2 screws. Now we are ready for the interior doors. First, cut the vertical frame parts to length. For this purpose, lay them both down next to the actual door and pay close attention to correct alignment in the area of hinges and in the front at closing plate level. Then mark the points at which the frame parts need to be cut. The door needs a space of 4 mm at the top and 30 mm at the bottom. Transfer these dimensions to the frame parts and saw them accordingly in a right angle. First, attach the hinges of the frame and screw it together directly from above through the upper cross piece. You may pre-assemble the faces on one side, which will make it easier for you to align the door in the opening. Here you should work exactly as you did with the windows. First, insert the guide rails into the slots in the ends of the block planks and fasten them with the screw from underneath. Then place the frame into the opening, align it, pre-drill, screw, and then attach the faces on the inside. Before hinging the door, pre-assemble the counter pieces of the hinges in the door wing. At first, lightly tighten them, position the door, insert the hinge wing, and finally tighten them fully. All that is left to install at this point are the closing plate, the doorknob, and the key assembly. Finally, the exterior door. The door frame has already been pre-assembled. Position it in the opening between the already locked guide rails and then align, pre-drill, and screw. Before facing the exterior door, we should first cut and attach the floor cover moldings. They close the space between block planks and floorboards. These moldings simply run through underneath the exterior door. For a more professional look, miter the moldings in the corners, that is, cut them each at a 45-degree angle. Next, for the door face strips, start with the upper strip and center it. The vertical faces are slightly longer. Mark out the length to the cross face and saw off the excess amount. At the bottom, the mop boards take on the function of the cover molding. Repeat the same order of steps on the outside. The only difference The vertical faces do not need cutting, and here the lower cross face must be installed as well. Hinge the door into the frame and align it. You may readjust the wing position in the frame by turning the hinges of the exterior door. Finally, install the locking cylinder by inserting the key and turning it slightly to prevent the lock lug from blocking when inserting the assembly into the provided opening in the lockbox. Now secure the assembly with the appropriate screw. Now it is time to insert the doorknob into the lock. Before doing so, add the plastic sliders and tightly clamp both parts of the knob with a small grub screw that is provided. And one more tip. If the cylinder catches when closing, then if needed, loosen the screw connections, move the cylinder slightly, and tighten the screw again. The house has now been completely assembled. Optionally, you may add window shutters or flower boxes. You may also finish the coat of paint with a thick layer of glaze, which will provide a personal touch for your new block plank house, as well as protect it from ultraviolet rays and other damaging environmental stressors. Since such a finish is subject to constant wear due to wind and weather, it is advisable to regularly renew the paint finish. The recommended interval for the next coat highly depends on the type of product used, the location, as well as on solar radiation, but it should take place before the surface starts to turn gray. Please don't hesitate to contact us with any questions you may have prior to, during, or even after assembling your house. Our service staff will be happy to take your call. Or you may email us your questions, suggestions, or requests. We are looking forward to hearing from you.